What's going on, guys? Hey, it's Brian, and since we're working on this NASCAR kit, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to go ahead and try working with one of these ProTech seatbelt kits. This is their 5-point race harness, and it is PTMC number 17. That's the part number there. And on the back side, they have a nice list of instructions here, very detailed, easy to follow. We're going to go ahead and do this type of kit here. Now, I did open up the kit to take a look at what's inside, and it comes with a piece of paper stock. And it's hard to see on camera here, but there is a texture to the paper. You can hear me scraping on it. It's got kind of a cool texture to it. So this is going to be the actual seatbelt material itself. And then we have a photo etch fret. This little guy right here. Now you'll notice there's a couple of buckles missing off there, and that's because we've been practicing with it a little bit. And you see how there's a shiny part and a frosted part? We'll get to that in a little bit. The instructions actually say what to do with that kind of stuff. So we're going to set those right there so it's easy to find. And what else do we have? We have this. This is a nice little diagram of how the belts should look if you hold it right side up. So off to a winning start already. So there's the 5-point harness there, and it kind of gives us a nice little layout of how these things are going to go. Now, I mentioned before that we saw the little frosted area and then the part that wasn't frosted. Well, it looks like this area, that area there actually gets painted. The part that is not frosted gets painted, okay? That is my understanding of that. So let's take a look here. So we need little BG to help us out with this because he's got a pointer. All right, so hello, BG. So you see that little silver part right there is kind of raised up. That's the part that's going to get painted. On this guy right here, that's going to get painted. These parts are going to be painted the same color of the belt that you want to use. So you want to have red racing belts, you're going to paint that red. You want to have black belts, you're going to paint that black. So that's how we're going to do ours. So we're using red, so that actually shows up on our NASCAR seat. And we did a little bit of research beforehand and discovered that we needed to cut a slot in the seat here in order for these types of belts to work best. Now, I could have draped them over the shoulders. That just didn't seem quite right. So I went ahead and cut a slot in there, and we did that using that little device for, let me just show you that. You all know and love it. This guy right here, Scale Pro Shop's Dead Center Drill Starter. That was really handy to use. We just went through and poked a series of actual startable holes, and then went after that with our little tack life guy here, and we have a drill bit on the end of this. This one says that it's number 65. I have no idea what reference that's supposed to be. This is a cheap set of drill bits I got off of somebody that had broken most of them, and I got whatever wasn't broken. So we just went through and drilled a series of holes, and then we connected all the holes with the special tool I like to call the string saw. Let's back out here a little bit. There we go. So this is actually like a coping saw, or turtle, a coping saw that we have a string, strung across. And the cool thing about this is that you just thread it through, tie it off on the other end there, and there is a lot of deflection on this, even though I got it as tight as possible. There's a lot of deflection on that, so just be aware of if you try to mimic something like this. So just cut through and connected all the actual holes, and then went back with my hobby knife and then cleaned up the rest, and then sanded it very, very lightly with some sanding strips, and then painted it up to finish it. And it's a little lopsided on that side, but for some reason on the front side, it doesn't look too bad. So, it is what it is. It's going to be in the car. It's going to be a little bit harder to see, but I wanted the belts to actually go through the seat and tie off to the bar. Now, on the kit that we're building, we're lucky enough to have that bar right behind the seat, so we don't have to have too long of a distance for our belt material to go around. Now, let's see here. Like I said before, we're going to use a red material and for our belts, and we have been practicing on this actual post-it note right here. right? I like using Post-it notes because you can stick it down and, you know, it's almost like having a third hand there. So we stuck them down and then decided to practice our slicing because the instructions say to slice, cut the belt width the same width as the raised portion on the buckle, like that giant raised area right there, which actually comes out to be approximately 3 millimeters, just under 3 millimeters. So we did a few slices to get kind of used to cutting up the material and stuff, and then I hit it with some red Sharpie just to do it. So you'll see that this is actually the Post-it note on the back side here. It's still got the yellow on there. And we did some stripes, some strip cutting and stuff, and I got something on there, sorry. There's a lot going on the bench here, so it's probably a little bit of glue. But yeah, so what the instructions also say is that when you're doing this, you will have to cut a little taper at the very end for these little bits down here. You'll notice that those are much narrower than the wider pieces up there. And you see how that wide piece at the top is narrowed a little bit to fit inside that buckle. That's what we want to mimic on the rest of our belt. So that's a nice little heads up right there. And then also, in order to give some depth here, this little circle, you see how it's also sort of stepped? We're going to be cutting that off, and that will be flipped upside down and glued to the center of that circle right there to give it some dimension. Okay, so that's just a heads up right there. Mainly, we've been snipping these off with a pair of Tamiya snips. These are specific for photo etch. I picked this up at the local hobby store, which is sadly now closed. That's a heartbreaker, but yeah, there's a whole other story behind that, but we won't get into that right now. But yeah, these are specifically for photo etch. They even say right on there, photo etch parts, for photo etch parts. People say, oh, it's my photo etch scissors. I'm like, cool, you got scissors made out of photo etch? No. Oh, okay. I was confused. So yeah, so there we go. That's much easier to use these little, I know they probably cost a couple bucks more than you're willing to spend on something like that, but in the long run, it works out a little better than trying to use a piece of glass or a piece of tile and cut it with your hobby knife or a razor blade or something, because that's a great way to launch something into the stratosphere and never see it again, or stick it right into your eye. So there's a top tip right there. Now, a reason why I practiced on the note card here is because I didn't want to use up all of this material. I say material, but it's actually paper. I didn't want to use up all this here trying to figure out how to do straight cuts and everything. So we'll show you the technique that we like using for doing a straight cut. We're going to go ahead and trust the fact that this factory edge here and this edge here are square. They look like they're going to be square. Something that I recommend always having on the bench, and unfortunately this is transparent, so it's hard to see, but I always think you should have one of these guys. This is from my days of drafting and doing some art stuff and a little bit of cartooning. You wouldn't believe how handy something like this is. I don't usually use a knife up against this because it is just acrylic or some sort, and it's of course softer than a blade. But we will be using our machinist's ruler as well. What does that say? Evaporation sources. Oh, interesting. But what we like to do is, first of all, let's just get properly prepared. And again, this does come from my drafting days. We're actually going to tape that to the desk because that will make life easier. Oops, there we go. Sorry, that got stuck. All right, so we're going to put this along the top edge. That looks pretty close there. So I can see that probably better than you guys can on camera. There we go. That's a close approximation of where we want to be. And then, like I said before, we're going to be coming in at 3 millimeters. There we go. Now you could use calipers if you want to do this. That's completely fine. I do have a set of those, but they're not they're not great. Yes, Brian gets quiet when he's thinking. He also gets very quiet when he's trying to see small stuff. All right, cool. So that looks all right. I'm going to get out the little hobby knife. That sounds like it. There we go. Voila, Pierre. That looks nice. So now what we're going to do is color these up. I'm going to cut one more strip of that, and then we're going to color these up, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and took the opportunity to cut 1, 2, 3, 4 strips, okay? Because I was noticing on here, we need the 2 mains, and then we need the lower lap belt version, and then the one that I come from a hockey background, so we're calling this one the 5-hole. So we wanted to have enough strips for everything, and I figured that if we cut these, we'll have access to do that. If we cut those, we have access to do that, and this guy here can probably come from excess of one of the 4. So I'm going to go with that for right now. I still have plenty of paper sheet left over that came with the set. We're going to go ahead and remove that. And I'm going to actually tape this right here. In case I need it again, I'll be able to find it. So let's take a look at the photo etch fret that we have. Where'd you go, fret? There you go. There you are, fret. Okay, goes on walkabout. All right, so I'm thinking what we'll do is we'll clip off a couple of these little belt attachments here, some of those little buckle pieces, and get those ready. Now, in the instructions, they say to go ahead and snip them or cut them off, and then use a sanding stick or some light sandpaper to take down the little nubbin. I sometimes find for me that what's really useful is this very fine. It's a large file, which actually makes it easier to deal with when dealing with small pieces like this. So we're going to go ahead and get the little pieces that we clipped off earlier. We got those already set up, and I have those in this little dish right over here. So got one guy in there, and then also the belt adjuster is in there as well. So that's for one side of the upper harness, or I guess harness, I should say. So what we're going to have to do is taper that piece at the bottom there to match the taper. It took off of me already. Oh, there it is. To match the taper that's on these little belt pieces right there. Okay, so we're going to just do that with the hobby knife, and I'm just going to do a close approximation because it doesn't take much. There we go. Let's get this up here. That should do. That should do. Okay, cool. So we don't actually have to get this threaded through the actual buckle piece itself. I'm going to see if I can pick up this little dude with some tweezers. And hold it by that bit. So, okay, so we're just going to actually glue it to the top like that, okay? Not going to actually fold it through. All right, so I'm going to put this little guy back in the dish there, and then the adjuster piece, which is a little bit more persnickety to pick up than that guy. Now, the adjuster piece, I keep getting these figured out wrong. I keep trying to pull them on upside down, and that's just me. Sometimes the issue that I have causes me to translate stuff upside down or backwards or something. Anyway, so they're going to go on like this, and these guys just lay on top of there. That's why we're going to paint that little raised area to look like a belt. And then a piece that we slice off the top up here, we're going to add that below this piece here off to the side, a little bit of an angle, a little bit of a jaunty angle, and that's going to be the excess belt that's coming off there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and set that all up, and we'll show you what we're talking about. Okay, so we got our little belt buckle end glued on there. And then I have it threaded through the seat back, and look at how much extra we have. Now, we said before that the bar that we want to attach this to is literally right behind the seat. So I fed this through until I thought this looked like a good distance. And just kind of did this. So we will be gluing these to the seat surface so that they sit where we want them to be. So I figured that's kind of a good looking distance for right now. So I'm going to go ahead and slice off the excess, but I'm going to come along the back here, and I'm going to go about here so they have enough material to wrap around that bar. Okay. Now when I make my cut, I'm kind of looking arbitrarily at it right now, but I will give you a measurement that I'm using for this. Let's go ahead and figure that out now. So the little fold that we have, that's going to be where it comes through the seat. So fold it right there. Ta-da! I need that Peter Griffin ta-da thing, or I could just do it myself, I suppose. Let's see here. So I think if we give it 20 millimeters, that will be perfecto. So let's go ahead and do that. 20 millimeters right there. Need 20 millimeters stat. Okay. Rotate. And just press down and cut it. There we go. Sweet. So now we have enough left over to do this part here. That's going to be kind of pigtailing off of there. How about that? Okay, so this will definitely be too long of a piece. But remember, we have a little fold right here to let us know where it's coming through the seat. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just fold that over a little bit like that. Reinforce that fold. And look at that. That's almost perfectly in half. So that's pretty cool. Okay. So then what we're going to do is we're going to figure out where that adjuster piece is supposed to go on here, and go ahead and attach that. All right, and we're going to come back when we get that taken care of. Okay, so after just a few minutes, we have our belt adjuster on there, and I tried to paint that as best I could, and I had the wrong glasses on. So I did make a little bit of a dog's breakfast out of that, but then I added on a little strip of material to come down the bottom there to make it look like excess belt. So we're going to sort of just fish that through there, pin it on the back side with our pitties, put it on camera because that's what people were wanting to see. There we go. So there we go. That's what we're looking for, right? This is the most complicated part of the whole process. So we're going to replicate that on the other side and then do the lap belts and then come back with the 5-hole. Okay, so we're going to do that and then we'll be back. All right, so there we go. The other side came out a little bit better because I didn't have the paint issue that I had on that one. I think I'll let that dry and then maybe sand off that little bit of paint that I got on there and redo that with marker. Looks a heck of a lot better with a marker than it is trying to paint it. So, all right, cool. Now we're going to get on to making the lap belt sections and then go on to the 5-hole. I know it's not the 5-hole. I just keep calling it that. Let's see now. So from our directions, we learned that we're going to be cutting this piece here, and that's going to actually attach underneath this whole mechanism right here. Okay, so let's look at the photo etch, and we were looking at the lollipop piece. No, lollipop piece. All right, cool. So that's going to orient like this, and then we're going to glue on that little button on the top there. We're going to flip it upside down and put it on there so it gives us a dimension, and then we'll have a piece of card coming off the top of this guy, and then we'll have another piece of this card right down here coming off at an, again, a jaunty angle. So let's get on with that. Okay, cool. So we went ahead and we put on the lap belts and then the belt down here, and we did try to clean up our little adjuster area here a little bit more. That's it's better than it was, but that's a failure on my part with my artistic skills there. It seems like they took a little bit of a break, but I do like how they lay on there. I wasn't kind of sure how the cardstock was going to kind of look while we have it all laid out, but I do like how it looks. I mean, with the pieces that are going over the side bolstering, what we did was I have a piece of stock of the card left over, and then where's my tweezers? There they are. So before we went ahead and attached it to the seat, let's say that this end up here has the buckle attachment to it. So this is the raw end down here. So this is a bit longer than we were messing around with. I cannot, there we go. So we just folded that over there like that, and then we just wound this stuff up. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect or tight, but we just wound this stuff up here like this. Get a little bit of pressure. See there? Pinwheels up real cool. It's already starting to come apart, you know, to undo itself, which is good. We want it to be a little bit springy still. There we go. And then just using a bit of a thumbnail or whatever thumbnail you have left, like me, gets this nice little curl in there, which really helps out. Another thing that we did was like over the side bolsters in these areas over here, the high parts. I'm going to use an example on the back side here on the tweezers. We went ahead and then like draped it over like that, give it a nice solid pinch there, and it takes the form pretty nicely. So just a little dab of glue on each side, like right down. Where's BG? He's got smaller fingers than I do. Like a little dab of glue, a little bit down this on each side, not necessarily on top, but down on each side, front and back, and then that really helps hold everybody in place and keeps that shape there. So it gives it some weight, and I really think that it does do the job. Now you can argue that ribbon, you can do that with the ribbon and stuff, or sometimes people like to use tape also. That's great, that's fine. If that's the medium you like to use, then great. The hardware for this particular set would probably translate very well into with that medium, I guess is the best way to say that. But we wanted to try it with the supplied piece of cardstock, and I kind of like how it looks. Now we just have it draped over the sides and down under the bottom there. We just have it tacked in place with a little bit of white glue. And the white glue that we chose to use on this particular one was this stuff here, the Tester's Crystal Clear for clear part cement. Oh, I must say that even though Model Master is gone, I was very pleased to find that this particular product is still available out there, both I think in stores and on Amazon. So that's nice that they didn't have that go away, but boy, do I miss the metallizers. Okay, that part of the story is over. But no, I like how this looks, and I think if I was going to do this again, I would definitely take the excess pieces of card that come off of here for the adjusters and give them just a little bit of a lift at the ends to give them some dimension, a little bit more dimension. And I don't think I can get away with doing that right now because I think they are glued in place. Nope, this got a little bit of a lift. So let's just give that a little bit of a, there we go. Hey, I like that. Okay, let's see. Let's see if we can do it to the other one. And yes, again, Brian gets quiet when he thinks. Gently. There we go. There we go. That looks a lot better. I like that. Okay, cool. So, the chassis. We got the chassis here. And this guy's going to place right in there. And, man, let's put this on top here too. This thing is winning, man. Look at that. That looks really good. That looks really good. I like that. I'm liking that. So yeah, I'll be contacting Charlie over at ProTech and seeing if I can't get some more of these here on order. So yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of that. All right, y'all. I think we're gonna go ahead and sign off here. Thanks again for tuning in. One more time before we head out here. It's the part code is PTMC number 17. It's the 5-point racing harness for 125th scale. Again, we made it work for the 124 scale. I think it turns out just fine. Let me know what you think down below. We will have a link to ProTech down in the doobly-doo in the comments area. We'll have that pinned in the comments as well as in the description. So hopefully you guys can go check that out and hit up Charlie for a kit of your own. All right, I'll take it easy. We'll talk to you a little bit later on. Happy modeling, and we'll see you in the future. Bye now.